The Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Welcome to yet another spectacular episode of the Great Debaters Contest. We are in Meru County. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok. Our motion today is all schools should be made boarding schools for the development of a responsible citizenry. In this motion and on this motion is Materi Girls and Kibirichia Girls. Who will be the victor?
Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Nyamai Miriam Linda, Materi Girls, ready to propose the motion. All schools should be boarding schools for the development of a responsible citizenry. All schools, boarding schools. What a noble idea it is, going by what boarding schools have been achieved. As we begin, let us define the term citizenry. Citizenry, as defined in the 8th edition of the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, is citizens of a particular town, country, or city. In context, citizens are people who live in a particular country. Responsibility. Responsible is having a job or duty of doing something or taking care of somebody or something so that you may be blamed if something goes wrong. The value of a school, my esteemed listeners, is judged by the quality of its products. Thus, all schools should be able to produce all-round citizens who are equipped with knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values that enable them to contribute to the development of our country. My conviction is grounded in the following arguments. First, boarding schools, compared to day schools, provide an atmosphere to make students and learners independent and self-reliant, to make them face the world when they go out. Secondly, they promote national unity with national goals of education and international consciousness in line with national goals of education. Thirdly, they are places of refuge from the negative cultural practices, for example, FGM, early marriages, and others in some communities in Africa, especially in Kenya. Appetitas rationi paraet. This is a Latin word that means let our desires be ruled by reason. For it is with reason that we advocate for national unity. And for it is with reason that we advocate for national integrity. And yes, it is with reason that we advocate for boarding schools. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes for your opening statements.
I am Swinton Katha from Kibirichia Girls. Zero grazing or herding. Zero grazing or pastoralism. I will give you an example of my grandmother who bought a cow and put it in a zero grazing paddock. When this cow one evening was let out, it went so far away, my grandmother will not find it. Now, she bought another cow. It's a local breed, it's called a zebu. This cow feeds, and when I ask my grandmother why the cow doesn't run away, she tells me that, you see, this cow has been outside for so long, it knows exactly what is out there. Now, if you put these two cows together, a Freshen and a zebu cow, and you tell them, and you put them, for example, if they had reason and you told them to look for water, I want to ask you a question. Which cow will find water? A zero grazing cow that has been fed, a zero grazing cow that has been given everything at times in times. And my first point, influence. Influence in boarding schools is so immense. I'll take, for example, a child who comes from a poor community and is going for a day school, in a day school. This child, every time they go home, they have a stark reminder. They are reminded every day of where they come from. In boarding schools, we have a diversity of students that I do not refute. A diversity of students that some are from poor backgrounds, some are from rich wannabes, and some are really rich. Now, if this kid is staying in school every day, they are poor, she does not know where she's going the next minute. But every time she stays in the dorm, they have dorms. They stay in dorms. She's influenced by these rich wannabes and rich kids, and she forgets where she really comes from. A responsible citizen is a citizen who is going to be able to work, who is liable for employment. Now, if this child forgets why she is in boarding school in the first place, then we do not have a responsible citizen, because then we will have an unemployed citizen. to my next point, the money factor. With the new fees structure that has been released, boarding schools have proven to be very expensive. We very well know that 50% of Kenyans are living below the poverty line. Thus, not many are able to afford the boarding schools that are, or the fee structure or the amount of money required by boarding schools. If there is no money, there is no education. If we make all boarding schools, if we make all schools boarding, then we will say that there will be no studies for those kids who come from very poor backgrounds. No studies, no employment. No employment, we have the kind of citizens who will sit around in town and wait for Our Lady to strip them. We'll have con artists who will go to church and preach false messages to them. We'll no longer have people like Nelson Mandela to speak of backgrounds where they came from and the reason of how they have risen. So I do not really get why we should make all boarding schools day schools, all day schools boarding schools, yet we have day schools to really help them grow. Thank you.
Time now for rebuttals. Proposers, you have 3 minutes.
Linda Kenny, Materi Girls, to propose this motion. Before I proceed, I would like to correct my esteemed opponent here and make it clear that influence is a question of your personality, who you are and what you value in your life. It happens all through our lifetime and not in a period when one is concerned in school for a greater good. Now, in boarding school, students and pupils learn how to be autonomous and self-reliant. Being away from home or rather from their parents help them to gradually stop over-relying on them. This makes them to be able to make their decisions and be accountable for their actions early enough. Now, boarding schools are the most ideal places of preparing students, or rather the pupils, for the challenges and responsibilities of an adult life. In line with one of the national goals of education in Kenya, which is to promote individual development and self-fulfillment. Now, a person who has gone through a boarding school will mature to a better adult than the one who has passed through a day school as far as individual responsibility is concerned. In boarding schools, there are fewer distractions as compared to day schools. Now here you may find that a student who is in a day school tends to waste most of their time engaged in house chores. Mark you, the studying environment at home is not controlled as it is in boarding school. And this way, they may not be able to schedule themselves. They may not be able to stick themselves into a schedule that will enable them to use their time optimally. Televisions, noise, brothers and sisters, family relatives, these are all among the unavoidable distractions at home. Now, if all schools will be made boarding schools, now this will definitely translate to better results, and we will have more students qualifying for university entry, because the more educatory the citizenry is, the more responsible it is. Now, boarding school also promotes national unity, respect different cultures and international consciousness in line with one of the national goals of education. Now, hereby we find, because of the very fact pupils are able to be accommodated in boarding school, avoiding the need to go home each and every day. Boarding schools accommodate everyone, and I mean everyone from all over the country, and even in some cases from outside the country. This is visually impossible with day schools because it is ideal for those students from around the locality. Now, a person who has been empowered through a boarding school will turn out to be more mature, because this fosters nationhood, unity, it respects different cultures, whereby the students will be able to blend the best of the traditional values with their colleagues by interacting with them from different tribes, countries, and cities. Now, anyone empowered through this way will definitely lead to develop as responsible citizenry. Thank you.
Opposition, time for your rebuttal. You also have 3 minutes.
I'm Mary Katha from Kibirichia Girls. And first, I'll start by correcting my sister there. In day schools,
They are advised every day and has the opportunity to express his or her feelings to our parents. You have said about integration. How about the people living in cosmopolitan areas like Nairobi? And on to my first point, in boarding schools, they do not provide an opportunity for students to practice practical activities. At the end of the most units in books, take the home science book in Form 1. They are talking about kitchen preparations and to visit a supermarket in a kitchenware shop. This shows that it is that practicals are rarely and hardly done, but the day schools, they go home and often learn many things than the boarders. Minimal communication between the child and her parents. When children come from school, her behaviors were not enhanced they were enhanced by another person rather than her mother. Both parents, the child and the mother, they feel like they are both living with strangers, and there is no parental communication. Once I went to a salon and two ladies came in. One was younger and the other one was older. One sat down and the other one instructed on what should be done to the younger child, and she went out. But this child I asked how was the child, because the mother severally came to look if the child's styles of the hair were done. But I asked the condition of the child, and I was told that the child was mentally handicapped. I was told that when she was born, there was not enough oxygen in her mind. If oxygen can affect a child's mental development, aren't there other factors that can affect the child's mental, spiritual, and physical development? Take if you are separated from your parents for a long period of time. Isn't it this one of them? This shows that there isn't parental advice between when you're in a boarding school and when you're in a day school. You have the influence between your parent. Your parent can advise you every time that you need the guidance. Thank you.
We are marching with M-Pesa everywhere. We're assured of the services they give. We are fine in knowing M-Pesa's here, and we know that our money is safe.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
Audience has posed questions to both teams on stage. The proposers have been challenged to elaborate whether day schools cause disunity. And of course, the opposers have been asked to elaborate on the relation between the mental health of students and boarding schools. So we'll let them tackle those questions. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Clarita, and I'll answer your question. Okay, first of all, she has not framed it that way. She has said boarding schools, I quote, boarding schools promote unity because people integrate from different cultures, creating international consciousness. I think the issue is clarified now. Okay, before I begin with my arguments, I think I'm very surprised about what the opponents have said. Boarding schools, we chose boarding schools because we thought they are bringing more value to our citizenry. We thought they were helping us achieve more the goals of education. Now we are talking about integrating people from different cultures. We are talking about national unity. We are talking about better performance due to less interferences, right? Now the question here is, we want more, we want better in our education system. We can all agree that our education system has potential to do much better. Now, if we all integrate people in boarding schools, confine them for 9 months, tell them to focus, reduce distractions, then how do you expect them not to perform? We cannot stop this because we think that they lack parental care. Ladies and gentlemen, aren't some things worth sacrificing? Nothing in this world was achieved without sacrifice. We all know that. And if you are not going to sacrifice the warm hugs of your mom, then how are you else going to be of the biggest service to our nation? How else are you going to help our country move further? We need people who can sacrifice. We need people who can stand up for our nation through all from an early age. So issues like peer pressure, that's your decision. You choose which company you follow. Boarding schools don't help you choose that. Now I'll talk about culture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, some places in Kenya have very, can I call them backward? They're very backward when it comes to, civilization in issues like education. Yes, we'll admit that they're making progress, but is it fast enough in the pace that Kenya needs? Now, if we integrate people from those areas, we all know them, we put them in an area away from issues like FGM, away from distractions like early marriages, tell them to focus, give them books and facilities and tell them to work hard. How many girls have we saved? How many children have we helped? Countless. Countless, I repeat. We have seen this work in a lot of people. Senator Murkomen, perfect example. Dr. Kakea, perfect example. Moi Kibaki, retired Judge Saitoti, pardon me, the late Judge Saitoti. David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the bigger picture here. Let us remember first why we built these boarding schools. And when we know that, then we'll know the way we're supposed to go. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
I'm Doreen Moriongi from Kibirichia Girls. First, I would like to answer the question that was posed. Yeah, you've asked, this child is, for example, you've taken a kid to a boarding school at the age of 10, that is around class 4, class 5 there, it will depend. This child is growing mentally, physically, spiritually. As much as this kid needs the guidance of the teacher, he or she needs the guidance of the parent, which is very important and crucial in the development of this kid. Do you see, when there's that space between you and your mother, when the kid goes to the boarding school, they will tend to think that my mom or my dad never wanted me anyway. He or she is getting rid of me. And this kid ends up being rebellious. Are rebels the sort of people we want in this country? Of course not. This teenager is going to feel that I'm not wanted. And of course, this does not enhance responsible citizenry. Or does it? Of course not. And to my first point, there is insecurity, especially in boarding school. For example, take the example of the Garissa massacre. If that campus, that university was a day school, you see, there could not be so many people harmed, because when the attack was taking place, maybe these students could be coming to school. Only a few people could be harmed, not just the watchman and the buildings, just that. But how many big people? How many professors did we lose? How many doctors did we lose in that massacre? Many of them. And they could have helped in developing the country. That is by even paying taxes, and that makes a responsible citizen. My second point, the 16th president of USA, Abraham Lincoln, in his letter to his son's teacher, he said, "The test of fire makes the finest of steel." You see, this kid in a day school, he or she has undergone a lot of problems, which is interpreted here as the fire. They have undergone a lot of hard times, hardships. So when they get out there, they are able to cope with the hard situations of Kenya, just like it is. For example, in Garissa, whereby teachers have refused to go back to teach just because they are all those rebels and terrorists attacking the schools and stuff. These people, they have undergone those hardships, and they can, they have that thing in them. So they will have that feeling, I have to do this to save this kid. And a responsible citizen should be able to to work in any sort of hardships to develop his or her country. Thank you.
Closing submissions, beginning with the proposers. You have 1 minute.
Let us not make assumptions. Not all parents are perfect role models, but some teachers are. Okay, in my conclusion, I'll use an example of Dr. Kakenya, last year's top CNN hero, top 10 even be precise. She's a doctor, she has a doctorate now. Okay, the girl, when she was 4 years old, she was engaged to an old man. At 15 years, she was genitally mutilated. Now, she had to compromise with the father just to go through high school. Look at what you have made out of her. If it were not for boarding school, tell me how she would be the woman she is right now. Tell me how those cultural practices would not have affected her. Please, let us look at the greater good of this thing. The reason why boarding schools are considered prestigious is because of the value they bring to our society. We can stay here the whole day naming people who have gone through boarding schools and succeeded in life. Now I'll conclude there. Thank you.
Opposition, you also have 1 minute for your final submission.
First, I would like to ask a question. If this doctor you're talking about, it is lack of education that was making her get engaged at the age of 5. We are not specified if she was in a day school or in a boarding school where she was picked up and went to be engaged. Now, Martin Luther once said that the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and critically. Intelligence and character, that is the goal of true education. True education will be achieved when a child is learning how to walk from home to school. True education will be achieved when a child is self-reliant, when a child is able to pack their bags back home. True education will be achieved when a child is able to go to their mother and be able to communicate with their parents without fear of contradiction. True education will be achieved when a child is not estranged from their parents. I rest my case. Thank you.
Linda, Materi Girls, good definition of the motion. You started it off very well. I appreciate how Linda Kendi came back very strong, good cross-examination, and you also brought that notion of national integration, which is a very good point amongst others. Tekla as well, you came picked up very well, and you're very confident, I must say, very passionate as well, good mastery of language, and that was a very punchy and good ending as well for your team.
Kibirichia Girls, Swinton, you're a great speaker, and I like the fact that you started off the team. Mary, eye contact is very important with the audience. I think I struggle to see you lift up your head and look at me or look at the audience. You read most of the time. Doreen, think through your sentences and make sure that your arguments are cohesive. Okay. All the best to the two teams.
I think what is most important is teamwork. As a team, in case you are to cross over to the nationals, the first question is, are you able to form a team? One person cannot save a team, or two people. You want to have 3 speakers who are well able to save a team. So when you go back to your schools, maybe you can see ways of revising yourselves or revising the teammates and seeing how to put members who are able to sustain the energy throughout the debate. Otherwise, it was an impressive debate for me.
Materi Girls, the judges awarded you 70%. Please give them a round of applause. Kibirichia Girls, the judges saw it fit to award you 67%. Please give them a round of applause. Therefore, our winners for the debate are Materi Girls.
Give them a final hand. That was a good job from both of them. That was a wonderful debate, and we thank you for staying tuned to KBC, and you can find more such debates every day of the week. We'd like to thank all our viewers for tuning in, and we hope we'll see you next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.